Alright, so I've gotten some pretty good feedback on some of the books and stuff that I've shared. And being that this is a really old book and it doesn't really have even publication dates or anything like that, I'm gonna read it to you. So you can just sit back. It's nothing you have to watch. Just sit back and enjoy. Okay? So this chapter is called The Dignity of Self-Reliance. Self-confidence without self-reliance is as useless as a cooking recipe without food. Self-confidence sees the possibilities of the individual. Self-reliance realizes them. Self-confidence sees the angel in the unhewn block of marble. Self-reliance carves it out for himself. The man who is self-reliant says, "No one can realize my possibilities for me but me. No one can make me good or evil but myself." He works out his own salvation financially, socially, mentally, physically, and morally. Life is an individual problem that man must solve for himself. Nature accepts no vicarious sacrifice, no vicarious service. Nature never recognizes a proxy vote. She has nothing to do with middlemen. She deals only with the individual. Nature is constantly seeking to show man that he is his own best friend and his own worst enemy. Nature gives the option on which he will be to himself. Nature gives man the option on which he will be to himself. All the athletic exercises in the world are of no value to the individual unless he compels those bars and dumbbells to yield to him. In strength and muscle, the power for which he himself pays in time and effort, he can never develop his muscles by sending his valet to the gymnasium. The medicine chests of the world are powerless in all of the united efforts to help the individual until he reaches out and takes for himself what is needed for his individual weakness. All the individuals of the world are but speculations in morals, mere theories of salvation, until the individual realizes that he himself must save himself by relying on the law of truth as he sees it, and living his life in harmony with it as fully as he can. But religion is not a Pullman cart with soft cushioned seats where he has to but pay for a ticket and someone else does all the work. In religion, as in all other great things, he is ever thrown back on his own self-reliance. He should accept all help, but he must live his own life. He should not feel that he is a mere passenger. He is the engineer, and the train is his life. We must rely on ourselves, live our own lives, or we merely drift through existence, losing all that is best, all that is greatest, all that is divine. All that others can do for us is give us opportunity. We must be prepared for the opportunity when it comes, and go after it and find it when it does not come, or that opportunity is to us nothing. Life is but a succession of opportunities. They are good or evil as we make them. Many of the alchemists of old felt that they lacked but one element. If they could abstain that one, they believed they could transmute the baser material into pure gold. It is so in character. There are individuals with rare mental gifts and delicate spiritual discernment who fail utterly in life because they lack the one element, self-reliance. This would unite all of their energies and focus them into strength and power. The man who is not self-reliant is weak, hesitating and doubting in all that he does. He fears to make a decisive step because he dreads failure, because he is wanting for someone to advise him, or because he doesn't dare act in accordance with his own best judgment. In his cowardice and in his conceit, he sees all of his non-success due to others. He is not appreciated, not recognized. He is kept down. He feels that in some subtle way society is conspiring against him. He grows almost vain as he thinks that no one has had such poverty, such sorrow, such affliction, and such failure as have come to him. The man who is self-reliant seeks to discover and conquer the weakness within him and keeps him from the attainment of what he holds dearest. He seeks within himself the power to battle against all outside influences. He realizes that all the greatest men in history, in every phase of human effort, have been those who have had to fight against the odds of sickness, suffering, sorrow. To him, defeat is nothing more than a passing through a tunnel is to a traveler. He knows he must emerge again into the sunlight. The nation that is strongest is the one that is most self-reliant, the one containing within its boundaries all that its people need. If, with its ports all blockaded, it has not within itself the necessities of life and the elements of the continual progress, then it is weak, held by the enemy, and it is but a question of time until it must surrender. Its independence is in proportion to its self-reliance, to its power to self-sustain itself from within. What is true of nations is true of individuals. The history of nations is but the biography of individuals magnified, intensified, multiplied, projected onto a screen of the past. History is the biography of a nation. Biography is the history of an individual. So it must be that the individual who is strongest in any trial, sorrow, or need is he who can live from his inherent strength, who needs no scaffolding of commonplace sympathy to uphold him. He must ever be self-reliant. The wealth and prosperity of ancient Rome, relying on her slaves to do the real work of the nation, proved the nation's downfall. The constant dependence on the captives of war to do the 1,000 details of life for them killed self-reliance in the nation and in the individual. Then, through weakened self-reliance and increased opportunity for idle, luxurious ease that came with it, Rome, a nation of fighters, became a nation of men more effeminate than women. As we depend on others to do those things we should do for ourselves, our self-reliance weakens and our powers and our control of them become continuously less. Man, to be great, must be self-reliant. Though he may not be so in all ways, he must be self-reliant in the one in which he would be great. The self-reliance is not the self-sufficiency of conceit. It is daring to stand alone. Be an oak, not a vine. Be ready to give support, but do not crave it. Do not be dependent on it. To develop your true self-reliance, you must see from the very beginning that life is a battle you must fight for yourself. You must be your own soldier. You cannot buy a substitute. You cannot win a reprieve. You can never be placed on the retired list. The retired list of life is death. The world is busy with its own cases. The world is busy with its own cares, sorrows, joys, and pays little heed to you. There is but one great password to success: self-reliance. If you would learn to converse, put yourself into positions where you must speak. If you would conquer your morbidness, mingle with the bright people around you, no matter how difficult it may be. If you desire the power that someone else possesses, do not envy his strength and dissipate your energy by weakly wishing his force were yours. Emulate the process by which it became his. depend on your self-reliance. Pay the price for it, and equal power may be yours. The individual must look upon himself as an investment of untold possibilities if rightly developed. A mine whose resources can never be known but by going down into it and bringing out what is hidden. Man can develop his self-reliance by seeking constantly to surpass himself. We try too much to surpass others. If we seek ever to surpass ourselves, we are moving on a uniform line of progress that gives a harmonious unifying to our growth in all of its parts. Daniel Morel, at one time president of Cambria Rail Works that employed 7,000 men, made a rail famed throughout the world, was asked the secret of great success in the works. "We have no secret," he said, "but this: we always try to beat our last bunch of rails." Competition is good, but it has its dark danger side. There's a tendency to sacrifice real worth to mere appearance, to have seeming rather than reality, But the true competition is in the competition of the individual with himself, his present seeking to excel his past. This means real growth from within. Self-reliance develops it, and it develops self-reliance. Let the individual feel thus as to his own progress and possibilities, and he can almost create his life as he will. Let him never fall down in despair at dangers and sorrows at a distance. They may be harmless, like Bunyan's stone lions, when he nears them. The man who is self-reliant does not live in the shadow of someone else's greatness. He thinks for himself, depends on himself, and acts for himself. In throwing the individual thus back upon himself, it is not shutting his eyes to the stimulus and the light and the new life that comes with the warm pressure of the hand, the kindly word, and the sincere expressions of true friendship. But true friendship is rare. Its great value is in a crisis, like a lifeboat. Many a boasted friend has proved a leaking, worthless lifeboat when the storm of adversity might make him useful. In these great crises of man, in these great crises of life, man is strong only as he is strong from within. And the more he depends on himself, the stronger he will become, and the more able he will be to help others in the hour of their need. His very life will be of constant help and of strength to others, as he becomes to them a living lesson of the dignity of self-reliance. So I had a few little errors in there. I don't know if you caught them or not, but it's okay, because you know what? I'm just human. But you know what? I'm not just human. Just human would say that'd be like a limitation on us. I am human. And I think it's super for us to be human. And that book was from my grandma and grandpa, and they've since made their transitions and from this life into the next. They taught me a lot of things, and I'm very, very blessed and thankful for what they taught me. When I was little, I wanted a bicycle. I said, "Hey, Grandpa, can you get me a bicycle?" He said, "No." I said, "What? Why?" I said, "But you've got a lot of money. You own a business." He says, "Yeah," but he says, "I worked for that." I said, "Yeah, well, can't you share?" I said, "Aren't we supposed to share?" He says, "Well," he says, that would be kind of like sharing, but that would be more like making you dependent upon me. And that's not what we're trying to do here, because we want you to grow up to be independent. We want you to have a dignity of being self-reliant. And he didn't read me this book. I found this book after they had passed. But I'm pretty sure he read it. I'm pretty sure he understood principles of it. And I'm very thankful for that lesson. But instead of just throwing me out to the wolves and leaving me transportationless, he made me a deal. He said, "I'll tell you what." He says, if you earn half the money for the bicycle that you want, I'll share some of my money and I'll help you with the other half of that bicycle. And so I worked really hard, and I mowed lawns, and I was asking the neighbors, "Hey, can I take out your trash? Can I do whatever? Can I smash your cans? Whatever it is, can I do something with my time to make money so that way I can get the things I want in my life?" And most of my neighbors, they were pretty cool folks, and they'd be like, "Oh, all right, One guy, he taught me to make sure you know what your contract is before you start doing the work, because I worked all day picking blueberries, and he gave me $2. And I mean, even back in 1982 or whatever that was, that I felt ripped off. But he told me, he says, "Well, you didn't ask how much I was going to pay you." I was like, "All right." But you know what? He did teach me a lesson. He said, because he'd ask me if I could do something. I said, "Well, no, I can't do that." He said, "Hold on, now you gotta say yet." I said, "What? Why would I say yet?" He says, "Well, because if you just say you can't do something, that means you already give up. You're never gonna do it. But if you say, I can't do that yet, somebody that knows how to do it might say, oh, are you interested in learning? Well, then if you say yes, you might have just got yourself an apprenticeship. Maybe you can help them do what they know how to do, so that way you can learn what you're wanting to learn." I was like, all right, that makes sense. Yeah, pretty smart old guy. A lot of things, if we listen to our elders, they could teach us a lot. Some of our elders, they just teach you that you can outlive Bob Barker and maybe even Drew on The Price is Right. Some people just spend their whole life watching TV. But that's not the case for everybody. Some people have really, really gone out there. They've done things. I've already been around the world twice. I've lived all over the country. I've had my own business. I'm building a property. I'm building a pretty big thing for me. And I've done it being self-reliant. And these are lessons that I learned from when I was a child, to be self-reliant in all sorts of ways. I know how to do everything. Or if I don't know how to do something that I need to know how to do, well, then I usually know somebody I can talk to learn how to do it. And if I don't know anybody who knows how to do that, well, then there's YouTube University. And YouTube University will teach you everything. And you've got 20 instructors to choose from. And if you don't like what one of them's saying, or you've watched 6 videos and they're all basically saying the same thing, but you watch another video and that guy, he just don't even know what he's talking about, well, you just dismiss it. It's not a big deal, and it doesn't even cost you anything. That's where, if we want an education where somebody else to spoon feed us everything, I would call that having a middleman. And that middleman costs a lot of money, because that middleman is wanting your money for their time. And whenever we ask for somebody else's time, we're probably going to have to pay money, or our energy in some sort. Time is our most valuable resource. You don't make any more of it. You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. You better make the best use of what you got. When life is full of adventure, and when you're busy all the time, when you have a busyness of life, it flies by. I'm 45. I'm getting ready to turn 46, and Uh, I mean, my first day of kindergarten seemed like it was just yesterday, but there's just been a whole bunch of yesterdays in between there. Some of the yesterdays were almost the same, but a lot of them have been different. I've had a lot of different jobs. I've had a lot of different experiences. Like I said, I've lived all over the place. I mean, I've lived in a van even. That was the most fun I think I've ever had. I mean, that's freedom. That's almost like having a set of wings strapped to your back. Which way do I want to go now? You just jump. Well, turn the ignition on and turn the roundy thing, mash the go pedal, and you're going to where you want to go. And when you stop going where you want to go, that's where it's important to be self-reliant again, because maybe you got to replace a tire, or you got to replace a fan belt, or maybe you got to replace an engine even. You should be able to do that. All it is a sequence of events. That mechanic, he's just good at it because he's been doing it for so long. Practice makes perfect. But if you watch a YouTube video and you keep track of every step that you do, and you acquire the tools that you need to do it, really anybody is equally capable of doing nearly any job. I was married, and one day my wife, she come home and she said, "Oh, there's a leak on the passenger floor of my 4Runner." I said, "Oh, you know what that means?" She says, "It's wet." I said, "All right, smart ass. Yeah, it's wet. That also means that the heater core from up underneath your dash is leaking your coolant, and so we need to fix that, or you need to pay probably $900 to $1,000 for somebody else to fix it." And she's like, "Well, I don't want to spend $900 on that truck. We only paid $800 for it." I'm like, "I know. So I guess you should watch YouTube University and find out the series of events that needs to take place here to get an idea of what the job's going to take." She's like, "All right." So she comes back to me. She's like, "Well, it looks like the job takes about 4 or 5 hours." I was like, "All right, sounds about right." So we pulled her vehicle in. We started taking apart the dash. We started taking apart, dropping the steering column down. It's doing all the little steps that mechanic would do. And we wrote down each step so that way we make sure that we don't miss something when we put it all back. And she learned the value of being self-reliant, because you should have seen the smile on her when she finished doing that project. I mean, I helped a little bit, just real small amounts. I mean, she was fiercely motivated to be self-reliant. And that's a really neat thing to witness, because for somebody that thinks that they can't do it, but then they learn that they can do it, and they do it to where it works, that's power. And I think we're all equally capable of that, but we've been told that no, that's a job for somebody else. I was a plumber for 22 years. Let me tell you, there's a lot of jobs that people think that it's the plumber's job, because no way I could do that. But all I did was a series of simple steps. I opened up a sheetrock wall. I took a little saw and I cut a pipe off. I cut a pipe off again. I took a new piece of pipe and pieces of whatever kind of couplings were necessary, and I either tighten them up or I'd solder them in place. And I charge them $100 or $150 because I'm a professional, of course. I got overhead. I got rules, regulations. I got all these fiery hoops to jump through. So that's why it costs you so much money to have me come out to your house. But you know what? It was pretty awesome, because I've been to thousands of houses. And just like I've been to several countries, I've been in deserts across the planet. I've been on basically all corners of the United States. I've even been to islands out in the Pacific. And everywhere I go, people are basically the same. They want joy, they want happiness, they want to have content in their life. Just regularly achieving little goals you set for yourself is a pretty cool feeling. We're in the midst of a disruption to our day-to-day lives. That's a cool thing, because wherever we want to create something new, we have to make it a clean slate first. You know, we can't I can't write on these pages unless they're clear. Right? I mean, I could write a little bit of stuff here and there, but it would just be jumbled. It wouldn't make sense. It wouldn't be of order. It wouldn't be the way anybody would find it beneficial. But if I were to take a book like this and scratch off all the, erase all the ink, everything that somebody else has done to this, then I would have a book that I could write my whatever on, I could write a biography, I could write a story about some fictional entity. Same thing with our life. We have to take away what other people have built for us in the ideas of who we are, what we're here to do, how we're to interact with each other. And we got to start building that ourselves. We got to be self-reliant on that, because like for a long time, I watched a lot of TV when I was younger. And there was a lot of things about watching TV that shaped the way I saw the world and how I reacted to other people. When I became a little more aware of how I wanted to be, and I learned about meditation and yoga and mindfulness, and I came to a point that I recognized that my life can start from a clear slate at any time. At any time that I want to change my life, I can. I mean, I've been so many different things. I've been a student. I've been a child. I was a baby once, right? I was even a fetus. And thankfully, I was not aborted, because it gave me this opportunity at life. And it gave me this opportunity. I wouldn't be talking to you if I ended up in, somebody's facial cream, or, I mean, that's basically what they're doing with them aborted fetuses, right? They're selling them off for somebody else's benefit. But I'm not that. So I'm here. But I mean, I built my home. I did the tile work in my home. So I'm a tile setter. And I didn't do the sheetrock, so I can't say that I'm a sheetrocker. Those guys did a great job on that. But I'm a framer. I nailed the boards together. And I'm a window installer, because I put the windows in. And I'm a plumber, because I did the plumbing. And I'm an electrician, because I helped do the electrical. I had a friend who knows more about it come and help me. I paid him for his time. So I did the roofing, so I'm a roofer. Well, then I like to do welding and auto mechanics, and so I'm a mechanic and a welder. What else am I? I'm a gardener. I'm a landscaper. I'm a permaculturist. I'm a reverend now. I'm a yoga teacher. What else am I? I'm a graphic designer. I'm a little bit of everything, because I've even been a firefighter. I've even been a cop. I've been a soldier. I've been a prisoner. I've been witness to a murder. I've been a hunter. I've been the hunted. You've probably been a lot of things too. And even though you aren't everything right now, you're capable of all of those things at any time. I believe that. I believe that in myself, and I believe that in you. How do we get there? We get there through persistence. We get there through continuing to push the boundaries that we've held. If we keep on pushing past those boundaries, like with yoga, I'm gonna just come right at you. But I mean, you know, if I was like, oh yeah, this is as far as I can reach, and I was like, well, I'll give you $5 if you can reach a little farther. I'm like, oh, okay, I can reach a little farther. Think you can reach a little farther for another $10? Oh, okay, I can reach a little farther, and I'm pushing a little bit farther. Okay, yeah, a little bit farther. And you recognize that what you think you can do, when you start pushing past it, you can always do a little bit more. But if I were to say, all right, yeah, this is what I can do, and somebody says, I'll give you $5 if you can go anymore, you're like, dude, it's not even worth it. Oh my God. I just missed the opportunity of earning that $5 and then the $10, and maybe that last time was 100 or 1,000 or 10,000. And that's what stepping past that comfort range does for you. We step past comfort into growth. And if we don't recognize the growth that we want with that step or that push, we got to keep on taking steps. We got to keep taking and pushing farther and farther until we get to where we want to be. It's like when I first started building this house. I nailed the first 2 boards together, put it in the trench, and I'm like, holy shit, there's still like 160 feet of trench to put boards in. All right. So, drink some water, you know, tell the dog to get out of the way, and start building all these boards. And, you know, all the boards came together. And we poured concrete in them. I'm like, oh, well, that's cool. Well, then we stripped the boards off. Well, then all the next steps, they just started happening. And I realized that everything I was doing to build this home was happening one step at a time. And all the steps weren't that difficult. You just had to try to make sure it was as best as you knew how to do, or you know, as you could learn at that time. And when you do each of those steps the best that you can do, it actually turns out to be a really great product. And there's little things that you know, that I didn't make perfect. And if I look at him, I'm like, Rob, that wasn't perfect. But then I remember, I'm like, you know what? Neither am I. Neither am I. And that's okay. Because it's almost more natural to be a little bit imperfect. Because that's what perfection is. I mean, who's to say what perfect is? Or maybe it's just opportunities to learn. You learn ways that it didn't work. You know, I've welded things together, and then I go to do whatever it is that I've welded together, and it doesn't work right. And I'm like, son of a gun. That means I got to tear apart everything that I've done. I got to break it back down to the empty sheet. You know, the blank canvas. And then when you get that blank canvas again, then you can just start building again. But you have to build from a good foundation. You have to make sure certain parameters are in place, or what you want to manifest, what you want to build in your life isn't going to happen. I mean, I've had to work really hard. I mean, because I didn't go to college. I just paid attention instead of paid tuition. And for me, it's worked out really well. I retired 5 years ago from business. I built my house. I built my own vehicles. Now I'm building my landscape into a permaculture-based landscape, because I didn't know about permaculture, and then I learned about permaculture, and I said, hey, that's a good idea. Why isn't that more popular? I mean, it holds onto the water like the beavers tries to show us. It, you know, you don't even have to rake up the leaves in permaculture. I mean, that when I was a kid, I'm like, why the hell am I raking up all these leaves? I'm like, aren't they good for something? And nope, you got to send them to the dump. But now I learned that if you leave the leaves on the ground, leave the leaves, right? It even tells you in its name, leave me alone. If you leave it on the ground, it insulates the ground like a blanket, because when they fall off, it's getting ready to be wintertime. And then the snow comes. And when the snow comes on top of the leaves provide a layer of insulation to the ground, and as the snow melts off, it just makes the leaves really wet, and they hold the moisture right where it's beneficial for the tree. And when they start, when the leaves get wet, and then they get, and then they get dry, and then they get wet again, and they get dry, and then they start breaking down, and they provide nutrients that the tree uses to make itself bigger and healthier. But we've been raking up the leaves and then pouring something that costs like $40 a gallon on the ground. That doesn't make sense. Permaculture holds on to water. You just leave the leaves. You shape the land like the beaver would, so it holds on to water. And you plant trees all the way around where you live that you like to eat from. Like I like apples, and so I've got about 5 or 6 apple trees now that are growing. And I like cherries, and I got a couple cherry trees. They're not making any cherries yet, but I got to trust that my steps of fixing the landscape, mulching the soil, planting the trees, and giving them water is going to yield a return that I desire. Because I look at other people, and there are orchards full of apple trees, and they don't even give them as much care as I do. They just put them in the ground and water them, and they just take off. And then they have somebody else come and pick the apples from them. So if we put a tree in the ground, and we water it, and we take care of it, or we put the seed in the ground, and the seed turns into the tree, and we take care of it, it's going to grow into something that's really, really beneficial for us. And we don't need to just have an apple tree or just a cherry tree. If you like to eat rhubarb, well, you put a seed of rhubarb in the ground, and it becomes a lot of rhubarb, and it keeps becoming a lot of rhubarb because it's a perennial plant. Like last year, I probably had 40 to 60 pounds of rhubarb off of one plant that I just gave away to people because I'm like, hey, you want some rhubarb? And they're like, hell yeah. That stuff costs $3 a pound in the store. And it felt good because I was just able to give it to them because it just grew out of the ground. I mean, I gave it a little bit of water, and it grew up, and it grew really big. So that's what everything is. Everything is a seed. A seed is like a thought. You put your thought, and then you put your action, and you can build what you want to build in your life. So anyway, this is I'll start off with reading a chapter, and then I'll work in this little series here. We'll make some playlists, and then I'll share a few words of how it's benefited me in my life, knowing these different principles or different ideas, and how they've helped me grow. Because I'm one of the most self-reliant people I know. I can make my own power. I can make my own water. I take care of my own poopy. And I don't even need toilet paper. Can you believe that? I'm not the one buying up cases and cases of toilet paper because we don't really need it. There are better ways of doing it. United States is like one of the well, I mean, other countries use toilet paper too, but there's a lot of places that don't use toilet paper, and they actually are very clean, because water is known as the alchemist, or known by alchemists as the universal solvent. I mean, look at the Grand Canyon. Water wears through rocks. It can also take off some poopy. So, thanks for watching.